Today's question is, how can we trust in what is to come when we presently have doubts? We are Monka. We greet you, my brothers, heartily and merrily in the infinite, radiant love and light of our one infinite Creator. We appreciate this instrument's careful challenging in this instance, for he is at a disadvantage with current energies, not being quite up to par. Please accept apologies if our message is therefore somewhat shortened from the normal length.
Editor's note. One paragraph has been redacted out of an abundance of caution related to tuning concerns.
It is only important that the tuning be maintained. With this needle point of attention maintained, we can serve you through the vocal channeling. And we ask this instrument to maintain a vigilance for this energy level so that he may assist in ensuring that only the highest quality message comes through, and that all here would prefer to part ways in love than come together to celebrate a facsimile of the authentic nature of contact with the Confederation. Please help this instrument keep the energies vibrant so that he may draw on them and help us stay in our lane. We would not depart this narrow lane that we occupy, for you must have your free will maintained. You must find those ways in which, by digging down deep and being your most complete and full self, you may keep your fountain refreshed and ever bubbling up with the liquids that give energy and succor. Therefore, my brothers, please attend carefully to those words you hear and dispose of those that seem off or off-putting or simply not your truth at the moment. In fact, it need not be a harsh rejection of the message in order for this discernment to be exercised. What you may do is simply turn away from a message's valence if it strikes you as faulty or not suiting you at the moment. After all, these words are recorded, and you may warm up to them at some future point. And this would be well to keep in mind, so that only what helps is accepted. Thank you for exercising diligent discernment. You do your Creator, and in truth, you do us a service greater than we have the honor to ask. And yet, in our lane, we are used to a generosity of spirit that all here are familiar with and exemplify. This generosity can also be turned within, you see. This is largely the theme of messages from our complex of late, that what cannot be worked with outside the self can be worked with inside of the self, and vice versa. In this way, you may keep calm when conditions deteriorate seemingly, and efforts are not sufficient to get the ball across the line, so to speak. This is a lesson that all who attain self-awareness learn. How to abide in a feeling of inadequacy. For every moment will not hold the keys to fruition, my brothers. No. Instead, there must be a kind of flexibility within the self, while at the same time, and perhaps somewhat paradoxically, you continue to push forward. You continue to put your chips in the middle of the table and call the hand. This is how one learns that outer conditions are subject in many ways we cannot completely explicate, to understand what one brings from within. We have spoken in the past of that light within that once discovered cannot truly be extinguished. And we would say that it is true that the reflections without the self of this light can sometimes not yield as much illumination as one might expect. This may lead to feelings of inadequacy or unworthiness. For what one feels within, what one holds the illusion at that moment to be in one's mind complex, will create the expectation of that which one observes in the phenomenal illusion. And this is part of your patrimony as a second density creature. To operate in your life within your lane, within the constraints of your expectations. Otherwise, you would be completely improvising in every single moment. And that, my friends, that is so much to ask, especially in a social complex of such tangled energies as you occupy. We trust you have some idea that in other systems where other third density planets have come into being, the pressures are different, and there is not so much frustration and confusion typically. This is why we in particular of planet Monka, find ourselves in your orbit, for we have served in your system on other planets. This need not be elaborated in this circle. However, we come to say that what you face, we correct this instrument, what you face on the surface of this planet has much to do with the history of your system, with the unique, creative dreams of this logos and the legacy of past creative gambles that have not panned out, so to speak. This creates a situation where the stakes are raised far beyond what is normal. In some cases, far beyond what is healthy. And it is for this reason that you have often struggled as a people to bring that light consistently without and shine it in a way that it can be recognized. So anytime you are able to bring this light out, you ought to throw a party and celebrate it. And groups such as this one should celebrate, should share in joy, not just in this state of concentration, but in a state of dancing and talking openly about the conditions of their life, joyous and grievous. This is important, and we would point out that it is somewhat curious that a fifth density complex would speak this way. Yet it is very important that there be this camaraderie, for this is in a small way the seed, the germ of social memory, the lightness that accompanies true freedom, the obstacle recognized as an opportunity to focus all of the individual energies on its forgiveness and redemption, so that you can see your power in one another and let the walls fall down between you and the other. Now, as an exposition, you see that we have a somewhat difficult time staying on the topic of your unworthiness or inadequacy. For from our position of remove, from the perspective that takes in so much more than yours on the surface of this planet, we cannot help but appreciate the potential each of you holds and shuttles about in this life, thinking that spiritual evolution and service to others is, we correct the sense from it, a mere matter of doing things. No, my friends, you must locate the spark of the service relationship deeper within yourself and within the social complex that mediates such service. Remember, what service is your symbolic representation of unity in a particular context. Therefore, there is no ability to avoid another chance to be a more complete self with greater fidelity towards that which you feel deeply within, those burning ideals that somehow, no matter how much drink or food or distraction you endure, you cannot totally forget it. And therefore, it is merely a matter of balance and acceptance when you feel that you do not measure up to the task at hand. For this is a task you have accepted, perhaps implicitly, perhaps even unconsciously. But it has been party to your approval on some level. And the material of your life will convey this to you. Now, it is true that sometimes you just don't want to do it. This is a normal condition. Fifth density entities sometimes don't wish to act optimally in every moment. Fourth density entities can sometimes not feel compelled to strive towards their ideals. So, nested in love and feelings of safety and belonging as they are, you have a great gift with the veil. And this instrument can attest to the truth that you will be transformed on a timetable that you cannot anticipate. Because of this, it is almost the case that worthiness, adequacy, the state of being good enough, simply don't enter into the equation. For you can serve well feeling down on the self. You can help many people thinking yourself quite a, this instrument resists the word, thinking yourself quite a turd. And we offer a light moment to help this instrument get back on his feet. For you are so much more than you think yourself to be. And your challenge is to bring that full self into attenuated moments of opportunity, keeping the powder dry, waiting for those windows, and helping you, we correct this instrument, conditioning yourself in a discipline of personality such that every moment need not be your shining moment. But instead, you can exercise a kind of discretion and give yourself a break when necessary. What will reward this careful, patient stewardship of the seeker's self is those glimpses of what is to come. And yes, my friends, they can be alarming. And you may feel that you don't measure up to them. This is not any concern, in truth, of yours. Why, you may ask? Why would I press onwards when it seems I am walking off the cliff? Well, my friends, have you not stumbled upon the answer to your question? Have you not finally seen the absolute power and majesty of the fool who knows there is nothing to support him, and yet into the dark he goes, into the mystery. He projects that light. And in doing so, we aver that his creative power is brought to the moment. And we would not attempt to explain or predict the outcome of this situation. It must be indeterminate. It is hard when you don't see a road ahead of you to take a step out into thin air. There is much at stake after all, and you are not incarnated to simply gamble your assets away on leaps of faith that are not well advised. There must be the balance between two concepts. The first concept is faith in the Creator. The second is a judgment of when that faith ought to be executed. It is a bit of a conundrum, is it not? For normally, one has a kind of blind faith in the future fruition and the goodness of the future events one would orient towards. And this is the case. It is true that one can have faith in the cosmic sense. And there are even moments in a mundane human life where the cosmic sense of faith will be completely operational in this illusion, in the small and limiting aspects that often define the emotional tone of your life. When you feel harried or under-resourced or that you have no time. This is all opportunity here, but opportunity for what? Chances to exercise which capacities of the total, complete self? Well, my friends, this is hard to say. And therefore, our final piece of advice to you would be to learn how to reach out and ask when the moment is right. Yes, you must learn a kind of discretion when it comes to pushing the chips to the middle of the table, certainly. Yet, there are also rules that can be discerned in the game. And it is not required of you to be a fool in a way where your demise is completely and absolutely guaranteed. Not always. By opening up to guidance within and without, and learning how to trust it and when to kick it to the curb, so to speak, you need not be the sole keeper of your good judgment. It is not true that even if you had good judgment, you could exercise it completely in this illusion, for you see so little, my brothers. And so the faculty of discernment necessary to identify and exploit opportunities in the illusion, that is a limited concept inherently, and must be balanced with a leap of faith within that matches at least the leap of faith without. And that means opening up to your inner guidance. Your higher self is the conduit for these more refined thoughts and energies. And you can practice connecting with this in meditation. We would suggest that each in this circle consider carefully whether they have an adequate connection within. This requires no demonstration to any other mind-body-spirit complex. It is merely the certification of the breadth of one's beingness. And it keeps one on one's toes so that one is ready for windows of opportunity and can get in the fray when it is profitable. We are those of Monka. We are interested in expanding on this message with guidance from you at this time. So, if there are questions that we can answer in order to clarify things, at this time we would address ourselves to them. We are those of Monka.
Monka, can you comment on shadow work in a general sense from the message you described?
I am Monka, and I am aware of your question, my brother. It is certainly apropos and fitting to address the negative space of that light within, where it seems not to be shining. We suggest the direction of the beam of light without, as if that were the only direction it could be aimed in. This is not true. In fact, your meditations are ways in which the light can be shaped by attention to illuminate the darkness within the self. And shadow work may often start here. It may not be completed there because you have to demonstrate your lessons in the outer reality for we correct this instrument, for the import of the functional ideas to be realized. This is what is convincing to somebody on the sinkhole of indifference bench. we simply offer an idea that shadow work is a careful exercise of love. When you are often down on yourself, these shadow images within can creep up, and they are part of you, so you cannot simply cut them out. This is frustrating to many seekers who wish for the confidence that perfection promises. But there is no perfection in this illusion, and so there is no promise to be had. You reach about for something that we correct this instrument, your Creator cannot offer. It is just too bad, in other words. So, when shadows emerge that you can trace their heritage back to the self within, we would suggest that you use meditation, and when you reach a shadow image that is difficult to reckon with, you simply maintain your equipoise and offer yourself a shot at recognizing what we do, that your pains and sufferings don't ever just go up in smoke. They are held within your energy body. And therefore, you have addressable blockages that have a kind of logic to them. This is quite good to work with in meditation. And what you cannot accomplish in meditation, well, the phenomenal illusion will inundate you with it, and you will not be without your precious challenges. We are those of Monka, and ask our brother if this has sufficiently addressed the question, or if we can elaborate in any manner. I am Monka.
Can you elaborate on when you mentioned demonstrating the lesson that you've learned? Can you elaborate a little bit more on that concept?
We are those of Monka. Yes, my brother, this is very straightforward. Imagine that you are having a dream, and in the dream, there is an emotional resonance that you would take into your waking life. That emotional resonance is dramatized in the events of the dream, in the visceral way that they manifest. And therefore, you have some concept of the message the dream wishes to convey with staying power. It is concrete and is not so easily dismissed. It is the case that phenomenal outward reality also has this quality, and this quality can be magnified with one's attention and will, such that one can use the reality as a kind of representational system of symbols that almost magically lodge the learning deep within the mind-body-spirit complex. By putting your body, your material goods, everything that you treasure in your life on the line, in the sense that it comes down to one's actions. One has the safety valve. We correct this instrument. One has the hand on the safety button such that new opportunities can be tested without a complete collapse of confidence in the self. For if you do not exercise these ideals, in what sense are they real? This is a recapitulation of the Creator's challenge to fashion an illusion that calls to an ideal, that screams out a concept that is delicious and worth applying one's full self to. You see, my brother, it is in the application of the full self that the lesson is learned. And we point this out to this instrument, for intellectually figuring things out, so to speak, has very little value. But demonstrating, pouring your love into the moment in a way that represents that moment's reflection of the truth. Now you have something that you can take home and show your parents, and that report card will get signed, so to speak. Can we elaborate further, my brother?
No, thank you.
We thank you. We are those of Monka, and ask if there is another question, with the caveat that the energies here are somewhat shaky, and while we are pleased with this instrument's performance thus far, we cannot represent that those energies will be maintained. I am Monka.
Monka, I do as well feel a certain distortion of the energies flowing today. In the past, I have felt you reaching out. I've heard you. I've felt your seeking. You're reaching out to us, and I wanted to say that I am grateful and very appreciative and full of joy that you have accompanied us today with your wisdom and knowledge. We do have a question for another. At times when we are grounded and unable to move forward, maybe it's complicity, maybe it's anxiety or fear or possibly other emotions. At times when we need to move forward and make progress in our lives, can you share ideas or ways that we may be able to get past these obstacles and move forward?
I am Monka. Thank you, brother, for shepherding this brother's question to our attention. We believe that there is a misconception in the question itself. The idea that you are trapped in conditions that then must be exited in some clever manner. These constraints that life imposes upon you in this third density illusion are not inherent in the illusion. They are inherent in the lack of clear perception that the veil creates. It is a broken record that we bring to this circle, and we offer our apologies for this. But you have only truly one tool that we know of to work with this incomplete vision. That tool is meditation, the sitting with the self, with the limitations and obstacles, and making friends with them, recognizing that your desire brought them into your orbit. And that if you are to reconfigure this orbit, there must be a change in the gravitational field of the center. There must, in other words, be a discovery of a new valence of love, a new expression of underlying creative energies that would cause the domino effect upon those conditions in the illusion. And this is a lesson that is difficult to fully learn in the events of waking life without a reflexive moment, without a repair to a position of observation. If one is constantly fighting dragons, one never has the time to take stock of the contents of the cave one has stumbled into. And maybe one has the option to go elsewhere. This cannot be easily decided in the heat of the battle. Therefore, give yourself a timeout, if you must use this term. Your lessons will be there when you return your attention to the self and the other selves without. This is another example of how one must use action in the illusion to cement one's understanding of these principles. For only in this illusion is it of sufficient density that it will give you feedback necessary to have the faith required for the higher densities. And in this way, you may partner with your evolutionary destiny instead of simply be dragged along with it. Have we addressed this question sufficiently? For this instrument did not fully capture the entirety in his mind complex. We are those of Monka.
Yes, Monka, thank you. At this time, that's sufficient. There may be more in the future.
I am Monka. I look forward to that, brother. For we have a certain soft spot for this circle. And we are very keen to continue maintaining contact with you. And it is simply too bad that this instrument feels so weary and underprepared when he has gone to great lengths and sacrificed much. We would advise him that more diligent practice and meditation on a daily basis would easily resolve this. It is tough, is it not, my brother, to come off the bench after missing so many matches. We hope that your break was sufficient to rest you up for a more regular cadence of focus, so that contact need not be so cumbersome. And we offer the circle of supporters here our deep, heartfelt thanks for their support of this instrument. It has been a tough time, and there will be tougher times ahead. Listen carefully to our words and weigh them, for you cannot know which strategy to employ when you meet the moment. It must be improvised in a way in one's deepest heart of self. And until you have the capability to trust your judgment, open up to those helpers, to the higher self, and to your friends. Look to them for guidance, as well as to those such as us. We would now take our leave, and thanking this instrument and this circle, bid you a very fond adieu in the love and the light of our one infinite Creator. Adonai Vazu Baragas. I am Monka.